Well, good afternoon, scrapbooking friends. This is Barbara from Scrapbooking with Barbara, and I am here to do my first, what hopes to be a monthly video using a project recipe that Creative Memories releases whenever there's a new collection. So bear with me, this is my first time doing it sort of a little bit on the fly here. So what is a project recipe? A project recipe basically gives you the information to create a double page layout. And we're going to be using today the one that was released for Art Nouveau, which was our mid-January collection release. It's still available and it's one of my favorites, mostly because I really am a fan of the arts and crafts movement that happened sort of in the 1920s and 30s, and these papers really sort of reflect those kinds of designs, a lot of nature kinds of motifs. But anyway, so a project recipe, you can get them through your advisor, and what it looks like is it's 2 pages where it will give you their version of the double page layout, and then you're going to have specific labels for the different parts that you're going to get directions to cut out. Then you have your instructions here that are very simple to follow. And then the second page shows you exactly how to cut each of the 3 different designer papers that you're going to use. It gives you the measurements, and it also labels them, you know, using the letters of the alphabet, so that when you have them all cut, you then can just follow this guideline and you can, you know, just plug them in where you see the matching letter. So they're very, very well organized. You'll also find on the second page a list of ingredients, the things that you're going to need, and some optional add-ons. I'm going to be doing my own spin a little bit on this, so I am going to go rogue a bit, and you'll see that one of the things about project recipes, and quite frankly, any sketch that you're going to use that, you know, maybe another advisor is going to devise, wherever you get them. Pinterest is another great location to get sketches. They're guidelines. They're places for you to kind of, you know, land and then sort of do your own take on it, and then make your layout. So it's sometimes going to be challenging for rule followers like myself. You know, I want to do everything exactly as set up, but the more you can make it your own, I think the more satisfying the results are going to be. So anyway, if you're interested in this project recipe, if you are a member of Cochon Croppers, I'm going to be uploading this to the file section of our private group. Or if you would like me to email them to you, you can send me an email at this address and ask to be put on my newsletter list, and as a thank you gift, I will send you the copy of the project recipe for the Art Nouveau. And another thing I just want to mention is that, you know, we're going to be using the Art Nouveau collection, most pieces of it, but you don't have to have the actual collection to follow the project recipe. As long as you designate which of the different papers you're substituting from a different collection or from your stash, it's going to work fine. So you could envision this in a totally different way and it would work out quite well. So let's get started. I usually, when I get a collection, a brand new collection, I have these power folders that help me organize it so I can see everything. So when I got the Art Nouveau collection, I put my designer papers in the nice big pocket. I put my stickers in the sticker flap there. There's also 2 more in the back. And then embellishments or variety mat cards, whatever, can go in the 2 front pockets. So I'm finding these to be really, really helpful because you just pull the whole thing out, everything's organized, everything goes together. And so I have chosen to really pretty much organize all of my papers using the power folders, and those are available on the website. So if we follow the directions, we need 2 sheets of, they're saying light gray cardstock, which I have. If you were to be working directly in your album, you really don't need this. You could work directly on your album pages, but since I'm going to be jumping ahead and doing photographs that go ahead of where I'm at with my family album, I'm going to go ahead and use the cardstock as my base for this layout. And then you're going to want to choose 3 designer papers, and they've made it easy to follow. Designer paper 1, they've got in orange. Designer paper 2, it is in green. And designer paper 3, it is in blue. And I find it incredibly helpful, especially if you're going off, off the particular collection that the project recipe is focusing on. It's very helpful to label your choices with the numbers. So for instance, and I'm following the project recipe pretty closely with the Art Nouveau pages. So number 1 is going to be this designer paper, and I've labeled it number 1. Number 2 is going to be this one, and then number 3 is going to be represented by the blue one here. So I've got them all labeled and ready to go. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use your 12-inch trimmer, and you're going to want to follow along the designated cuts for each sheet. So I've done that ahead of time to try to keep this video like under a half an hour. So what I've done is I took the first sheet of designer paper. I used my 12-inch trimmer. And a good thing to always do if you're going to make any cuts is take a look at the back, because if you can see on the front, this really doesn't have a particular upside down or right side up. I mean, I guess it does a little bit, but it's very subtle. But the stripe definitely does. So depending on how you hold this paper, these stripes could be going either vertically or horizontally when you make the cut. So just double check. This isn't going to, be an issue for every single paper you use, but for anything that's so obvious like this one is, it is a good idea to check the orientation of your paper before you start to cut it. So you can see, I hope, that the first 2 things that you're supposed to do with designer paper number 1 are to punch borders. And just as a reminder, you are going to want to follow this like you would read a book. You're going to start from the left and go to the right so that you have all the right cuts with the right designated sizes. So to make the 2 border cuts, we use the Border Maker system with this new mirrored triangle border cartridge. You can see, I think you can see the, there it goes, what the pattern is going to be like, and you can see it from here. And as you cut, if you really want to keep absolute tabs on all of your papers, it's not such a bad idea to label them like I did here, A and B. So the first cut that you'd make with paper number 1 are 2 borders, using one of the edges and using your Border Maker system. So that's the first one, labeled A and B. The second cut are 2 more strips that you're going to use for borders. Again, this is with paper number 1, and you're going to be doing 2 1.5 by 12-inch strips of paper. And you can label those C and D. That's how they're going to be shown on the directions. And then the next cut with paper 1 are 2 7 by 4.5 inch rectangles labeled E and F. And then lastly, for the first paper, you're cutting 3, I gotta get this centered a little better, 3 7 by 1/2 inch strips labeled G, H, and I. All right, so that's all of your directions for this first designer paper. The second designer paper, again, you're going to use the edge, and you're going to punch 2 borders using the Border Maker system, and using that same punch, the new mirrored triangle border cartridge. And so here we have 2 borders using that that cartridge, and they're labeled J and K. And very similar to the first designer paper, you're going to cut an additional 2 1.5 by 12 inch strips, and they're labeled L and M. And then lastly, you're going to have 2 rectangles. These are going to be 4 by 6 inches, and they're labeled N and O. Okay, so that's designer paper number 2, which is shown here in green. Lastly, the designer paper number 3. This is where I chose to go rogue because my photos are actually going to be of the day my 2 of my 3 triplet nephews took the train down to Attleboro. They are rail fanners, which means that they and their friends ride the rails, and they set up videos, and they video different trains going through. They identify the engines. They each have their own YouTube channel, and they decided to come down to Attleboro to film. And so Katie and I went to go say hi, and we brought them lunch from McDonald's. Freezing cold day. It was right after Christmas. So I'm doing this layout with the pictures that I took that day, and I had to, I remember when this came out, I'm like, well, what am I really going to use the train track for? Well, this is what I'm doing. I'm going rogue, and instead of doing just additional borders using the mirrored triangle cartridge, I just used this border punch to punch some rails so that I can use those as the bottom border. So here's where I'm kind of deviating from the project recipe. And these are going to be labeled P and Q. And then lastly, for designer paper number 3, oh, and I should say that this, if you can see, this is actually the bronze shimmer cardstock, which is gorgeous and absolutely matches wonderfully with the Art Nouveau papers. So lastly, with paper number 3, so the 2 borders, I just showed you the substitution, and then you're going to be cutting 2 9 7/8 by 6 inch rectangles. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm pretty sure I didn't cut it at 9 7/8. I think I did 9 1/2, but I don't think that's going to make a huge difference. We're just going to see. I didn't want to waste the paper. I suppose I can, I can't really add to the paper, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. So mistakes were made. That's the way it goes, right? Onwards and upwards. The other thing that it's going to show you are the sizes of the photos that are used. And for this particular layout, if you're going to do it exactly the way they show, you're going to need 2 photos that are cut at 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. So here I've done that already. So this is a little do-ahead work. And also there are supposed to be 4 4 by 3 inch photos. So I've gone ahead, I trimmed down some of the 4 by 6 photos, and then I'm choosing to use the 4th one as a journaling box. So that's where I'm going to be doing a little bit of writing and tell the little story behind the boys coming down and doing their rail fanning in Attleboro. All right, so what you want to do at this point is just assemble your cut pieces just the way it is labeled here using, I like to use the Repositional tape runner when I'm doing a project recipe because it gives me a little more wiggle room. And if I decide to change my mind, I can, you know, pick things up and move them around a little bit more easily, but you're welcome to use the regular tape runner. And what else? The 2-way corner rounder. They do have a couple of the photos corner rounded, so I probably will choose to do that. This is a very popular and fun tool that I don't always pick up because I just don't do it as much anymore, but I'm going to do it this time and see what I think of the results. And of course, if you're doing something as they show in this particular example, you know, that's a little bit more, I don't know, in line with the embellishments that came with Art Nouveau, which were really a lot of sort of nature, natural, floral kinds of things. You could use those as your embellishments for this layout. I instead decided that I would use the other punch that kind of went with all of our train stuff, our travel train stuff, which is the engine and the cars. And I punched out ahead of time a bunch of different trains and cars in different colors so that I could sort of play around with them when I get to that point. I also cut up one of my train tracks, so I have those to play with. And because I have organized sort of my random, don't know where else to put embellishments into color categories, I was able to go into the brown drawer that I have set up, and I just found some of these old pieces of who knows what. Pieces from different collections and kits over the years. You probably are going to be able to tell me what they are better than I can remember. But I don't know if I'll use them all, but I find that these random embellishments that I've organized by color, it's really easy to just pull them out when I'm looking for something with a specific color and see what I have that I can use up. So grabbing my base pieces of cardstock, I think, let's see, I'll just start with one. We're just gonna put everything together on the left-hand page. So let's see if I can assemble everything. So we have, here we go. And I think I'll sort of do it at the same time on this side. So when I have two things. So L and M are gonna go there. And what goes on top of them are A and B. I'm just sort of putting them down here, not adhering them yet. And then, oh, they used a sticker strip. I just saw that. They used a sticker strip for this ruler motif. So I think I'm gonna skip that because I don't really want to use that motif. And then I'm going to use the other two borders. And let me play around with this. Now I'm really going rogue because I wasn't seeing that when I first did it. I don't even know if I'm going to use these. I kind of like the way that just looks by itself. Although, let's just try one more thing here. If I put that like that, and put like this, and they actually tuck things in. So they actually put that like that. And see, this is what happens when you're sort of flying by the seat of your pants, but you can sort of see the playing around you can do. Oh, come on. Yeah, so they do something. I think I'm just gonna do something like that. I don't really want to put the ruler sticker in there because it doesn't really, it's like, it says measuring memories. Don't really care about that much. Then, let's see, so R is going to go here. And we'll put the other one down. And then we have E and F will go this way. And these will go down here. And that's where the railroad's supposed to go. So let's see, the rogue borders. I wanted to sort of have them go like that. Am I still on the screen? Yep. All right, and then lastly, these papers, well, they keep everything kind of dark. I may have used the wrong paper for this one. This looks awfully dark, but that's okay. I could flip this over and use that because it's only going to be a border. So we'll see. Maybe that's what I'll do. So let me just put these down and see what they look like. That might be a little fussy. We'll see. And then these are going to go like this. Oops. That should probably go like that because the train is coming into the station. So that's what I'm looking at for right now. So if you can bear with me, this is the place where if I knew a little bit more about technology, I would fast forward so you don't have to watch me do all the stickers. Maybe I'll be able to figure this out. Our repositional tape runner is great because, as you can see, you just go along any kind of fancy cut, and you don't have to worry about like putting little tiny dots of adhesive or trying to get one little tiny strip of an adhesive off of the tape runner. So the Repositional is really kind of, it'll change the way you scrapbook. Or at least it speeds things up. I'm gonna do that, right? So where does this get put? No, I think I'm gonna actually put this down. First, but I put the adhesive kind of up a little higher so I can slide this piece underneath it and put it just where I want it to go. So make sure I do it. How many people have put adhesive on the wrong side of the paper you wanted to adhere? We've all done that. I'm not sure this is the easiest way to do it. Maybe there was an easier way. I thought this would work. Uh-oh, come on. Problem with that, not having really good fingernails. Well, that's not really working that well. So let's just kind of eyeball it and put it down. All right, that's better. All right, that's not bad. I think in the interest of time, I'm not going to totally put the second page down, but at least I will try to put the pieces in so that you'll see what the end result will be. And pardon my arm if it's in the way. Okay. Then we'll work our way up. We will, I guess we should really put the bottom on so I know exactly where to put these larger pieces. Get that oriented so it looks kind of good like there. Do the same thing on the other side. I wonder if I should have flipped that. No, we're gonna go with it that way. Okay, just sort of line that up so that there's some continuity between the pages. There. And then the next thing we'll do, oh, these are being, I kind of made a mess of that, but okay. Try to center that about like that. And do the other side. And then we've got these, sort of make those, can go down a little bit more. I'm just going to lay that out. Okay, so you can either do it this way. I think I like having a little bit of a contrast, and it brings in that border. And this is where they used the punch to make it look a little bit different. Our two-way punch is really fun, our corner rounder, I should say. If you put it in the top, you get a nice rounded corner. And if you put it in the side, you actually get a little, what they call a ticket corner. But we're not going to use the ticket corner for this. We're just going to round both of these, the mat as well as the photo. And then that's going to go like that. And I'm not going to bother to do the other one, just in the interest of time again. And then we have our smaller photos that are going in the center, along with our journaling box, which would go right there. So I think you can see all that. Is that all somewhat visible? Making sure. There we go. Now they had, if you look at the directions, they also had these little strips, G, H, and I, which I cut. And on their example, they use those as strips. They actually put this right-hand sided larger picture up a little higher, and then they had these kind of going back and forth to use as like a little titled journaling box. And I'm not sure I'm going to use them. I may, but the way they sort of had them here is they had them going like there, right? Yeah, it seems like, I don't know how they did that. They must have cut them so that they could play with it. So that's how they did theirs. And then, like I said, I was not going to use like the floral motifs, but I was thinking it could be really fun to do something with the engine and a couple of cars, have that going along the way, and the same thing, they had one sort of here. That might be kind of fun just to have that. If I choose to use those, put that in like that. And you probably all know about the rule of 3, that if you can use 3 of something, odd numbers always work a little bit better than even ones. If I wanted to, I could put maybe that there with a few, could do a couple of those, and put something about, you know, Attleboro trains. But you get the idea. I could also do something here like that. So you really want to make your project recipe kind of reflect the photos. I mean, that's part of it, is that, you know, it took me a while to try to figure out what photos I could use for this demo. I needed sort of the right number on orientation, and I did play around a little bit with that. Like this originally was I think it was a vertical photo, and I went into my photo editor and I turned it into a horizontal. So planning ahead can really help, but you know, you have some flexibility here. If you wanted to have just like one, you know, larger photograph here, you could put it up here and do a title or some journaling. You really can play around with these, and you should play around with them. Again, you know, what I had mentioned before, these are really supposed to just give you that spark of where to start. Like, you know, when you go to sit down to do a layout and you're just, you know, banging your head and saying, I just don't know where to start. The project recipes, any sketches that you get online or from other people can really help. So I hope you enjoyed my demonstration of the Art Nouveau project recipe. Again, if you're a member of Cochon Croppers, check the files at the end of today, Wednesday. And if you want to sign up for my newsletter, it comes out about once every 2 weeks and talks about the virtual events that I'm having, as well as new products that CM is sponsoring, just go to barbaracochon@yahoo.com and sign up for my newsletter, and I will email you the 2-page project recipe directions. All right, I hope everybody's well. I hope you continue to stay safe and take very good care.